In this video, I'm going to teach you my secret weapon to accomplishing huge goals 100% every single time. That weapon is called the have-to mindset. I'm going to show you what it is, how it works, what it has accomplished for myself, war heroes, world champions, and how to start using this tool today. By the end of this video, you'll know how to apply this tool immediately to help you accomplish your personal and professional as well as business goals consistently, no matter how you feel. My name is Thomas D. Peterson, and I teach mental discipline, effective communication, and advanced leadership skills to professionals and entrepreneurs who want to reach the top 1% in their industries and professions. Many of you recently watched my video blog and saw that I fasted from food for 40 days straight. That means no food, no coffee, just water and salt for 40 days. I got a lot of questions as to why I did this, and I answered a lot of them in the 40-day manifesto. But on the whole, I really wanted to stretch my limits and conquer the fundamental human drive of hunger and discover who I was deep beneath all of the distractions, all the cravings, and all of the nonsense that life tends to throw at us. I also got a lot of questions as to how I was able to do this, and today I'm going to be talking about the specific mindset that not only enabled me to fast for 40 days, but accomplished the wide variety of other accolades in my life. With the mindset I'll discuss today, I was able to run a marathon back when I was 17 years old. I finished as valedictorian in my graduating class. I was the first in my family to go to an Ivy League university. I co-authored a psychology paper for a major scientific journal. I wrote a privately released 120-page single-spaced book in 1 month's time, and on a longer-term scale, I helped 2 coaching companies explode to 7-figure revenues in just a few years' time. These accolades might seem impressive to a lot of people, and at one time or another, I too was very impressed with these accomplishments, but as time goes on, they're no longer impressive to me. Because, as the saying goes, from the Greek philosopher Aristotle, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is then not an act, but a habit. And when you start to make a habit out of excellence, you start getting used to it. But from fasting to managing big projects to accomplishing big goals, there's one common denominator amongst all of these accolades that I've used to achieve this level of habitual excellence. And that common element is what I call the have-to mindset. So what is the have-to mindset? It is the mindset that you have to do something. That's it. It seems simple enough. Perhaps so simple that it seems as if it's not even worth doing. But when cultivated properly, the have to is an immensely powerful driving force that was not only applied by me, but also some of the greatest humans to have ever existed. Also, it's something you can go and cultivate for yourself. The reality is that you are already applying this mindset with great ease and expertise. You've been doing it your whole life. You're really only a few steps away from using this mindset to create a life of your own design and achieve the level of expertise and proficiency only thought to be possessed by high performers. Whether you like it or not, you are already taking on the have-to mindset. Just take a moment right now to realize all the things that you have to do today. Really think about this because this video is about you. I have to get out of bed. I have to take a shower. I have to make my coffee. I have to go to work. I have to finish this assignment. I have to pick up the kids. I have to pay the bills. The list goes on. But I want you to think of some things that you just said to yourself or to others today. I have to what? Just for today, nothing crazy. Maybe even things that you have to do in the next hour even. What are some things that you have to do? Ask yourself this. What do these things that you supposedly have to do have in common? If you're already a high performer who's very growth oriented, you'll see that these have-tos are already tied to your long-term goals and focused on growth of long-term skill sets or some long-term project. But the honest truth is that a lot of these things you have to do are really expectations that are set by others to keep the system running, to keep the team moving, or just to get others what they want out of life. How frequent is it that we have to do things that just keep the lights on, or just keep life moving, or keep others happy with you, or at the very worst, keep others not upset or disappointed with you? But when it comes to achieving your goals, growing your skill set, reading that book, changing careers, starting a business, fortifying your mental strength, or just doing the uncomfortable thing that you keep on procrastinating, you're not saying, I have to these things, which arguably are the most important things you have to say, I have to too. I mean, you might say, I'll do it later, or tomorrow, or you might say, I'll do it when it's convenient, or when I have time. Or instead of having some excuse like that, you'll just say, I have to, just something else entirely that keeps you stuck in that sort of base pace, that pattern that you just keep forgetting doing the hard, uncomfortable, and ultimately optional thing that would put you exactly where you want in life. I don't love that we have to do things that don't necessarily contribute to our growth, but it is worth noting that the have-to mindset can be very useful to getting the team members to get the job done. You're likely already a part of a team where you're playing a role where you have to get something done just to keep the system moving. But this simply cannot be at the cost of what you personally want in life. Your time is the most precious resource you have, and you need to spend it doing the things you want to do as well. And the time you spend helping others achieve the goals should be just a necessary cost to being able to accomplish your own goals, not the primary thing. But the same reason I'm not a fan of the have-to mindset to doing things for others is the same reason I absolutely love it when it comes to applying it towards your own growth, your own purpose, and your own goals, and ultimately your own version of success. What I love about the have-to is that you don't need motivation. You don't need to be in the right mood. You just need a couple of rules to follow and to go arrange your environment in a way to achieve this have-to approach to take something which is hard, which makes it automatic. You've probably encountered this have-to mindset in your history books. The have-to mindset was famously generated in 1519 by the Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés when he arrived from Spain to what is now modern-day Mexico, but back then it was to conquer the Aztec Empire. At the time, his soldiers were tired from the voyage. They did not want to fight. They were in a strange land with strange people and chaos all around them. So what does this leader Cortés do? Cortés did not motivate his soldiers. He did not give a rousing, inspirational speech. But when the boats landed on the shores of the Aztec Empire, he simply burned the boats which they sailed in on, leaving them all stranded in this new enemy territory. We hear that saying a lot, to go burn the boats, and that's literally what he did. So why burn the boats that they sailed in on? Because now fighting was no longer an option. They had to fight or face death. They had to conquer or face being conquered. They had to move forward or else face the consequences. This was likely a lesson Cortés learned from Roman Emperor Julius Caesar 1500 years his prior on a similar voyage with his Roman soldiers to conquer England by water, which we remember the famous saying today, if you want to take the island, burn the boats, with reference to how we burn the proverbial boats we sail in our lives today, to leave no option but the have-to mindset. It is important to realize that you have all the tools you need right now in this moment to accomplish really big things with your life just by taking the have-to mindset you're already using and applying it to the big things in your life. Better yet, we are going to turn on this have-to mindset by the end of this video, so stay tuned and get ready for it. As with any big change in your life, this mindset is easier said than done and must be practiced. Like muscle needs to be trained and steel needs to be sharpened, your subconscious mind needs to be trained to make this mindset automatic. I've discovered with the clients I've worked in the past that just telling someone to have this mindset is not enough. It must be demonstrated, practiced, and mastered through repetition and supervision. So here are the 3 steps to practicing the have-to mindset. Step 1, go to where the fear is and outline a task to complete. I might lose some of you at this part of the video because the mind likes to play tricks on you when you're afraid of taking on a big project, when you're taking a big risk, or just following through on what you started with a skill you're already cultivating or a goal that you're already in the middle of accomplishing. But really think about the very next step, something you need to do in order to keep moving towards the skill set you want to build, the goal you want to accomplish, or whatever else the next step towards success looks like for you. Take a moment to identify the one thing you need to do and make it a clear task. Make it something SMART. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and ultimately time sensitive. For me, I wasn't ready to run a marathon. I wasn't ready to write a book. I wasn't ready to leave my corporate career to go into entrepreneurship. These things were scary to me, but they were things I simply could not put off any longer. I didn't need motivation. I didn't need conditions to be perfect. I just had to go and do it. Don't get me wrong. I love being motivated. I love a good motivational video. It's always a treat to be motivated to work. But everyone knows that motivation is not consistent. Only discipline creates outcomes. And discipline is created through consistency. And consistency means you showing up every single day. And there's no easier way to showing up consistently than when you have to go show up. Very, very important point. Step 2. Set a firm deadline for a task with both a date and a time. Doesn't matter what the deadline is that you set, follow your intuition on the appropriate time horizon that you have to go complete your task. Make sure the time horizon for the deadline is realistic. I like to use the following heuristic to set my timelines. It's out of reach, but not out of sight. It should be improbable, but it should not seem impossible to go do. When you think about a firm deadline, imagine that this is a deadline some external authority would set for you, like the IRS telling you have to pay your taxes by April 15th, or a final exam begins at a certain date and time, or having to make your international flight at a certain date and time. It should be starting to become clear at this point that you already make these deadlines and you do it very consistently. Even when it comes to something which is much lower stakes, like making your morning coffee, you're likely to have your first cup of coffee before noon. Otherwise, you're going to be up all night because you had it too late in the day. But more importantly, the caffeine headaches start to kick in, which are super uncomfortable. And that is enough discomfort to make you make the coffee rather consistently, because you feel like you have to at that point. For me, it was simple. The marathon I ran was scheduled for October 10th, 2010. The thesis presentation I was to present was in early May of 2016. The private book was set to be published 10 days before Easter, April of 2020. And for the 40-day fast, I told my mentoring group the days I would start and finish, and made sure to film a video every single day, and every day that video was due, for me to reveal that I didn't give in to my cravings. Step 3. Give yourself a predetermined consequence that is more uncomfortable than doing the task itself. This is the magic sauce, and it is a large part why your day currently might be filled with low leverage activities that help someone else accomplish their goals, that distracts you from the life of your design, because all these activities have consequences if you do not do them currently. It is very much in human nature to not do things so much to achieve greatness, but rather to avoid discomfort. And we tend to avoid discomfort set by external authorities. For example, if you're late on your taxes, you have to pay a fine, or you even go to prison. If you miss your final exam, you get a failing grade in that class, thus ruining future opportunities related to schooling. If you miss your flight, you have to pay more for another ticket and miss several opportunities, appointments, or conferences for when you arrive. If you arrive late to work, then you don't get that promotion or you get fired. And if you don't make your coffee that day, you have to deal with the caffeine headaches all day. All these things are already consequences built into each of these systems. Unfortunately, most of our lives are not spent pursuing greatness or pursuing excellence or pursuing success, but rather spent avoiding discomfort, and that is why we all get stuck. Because all of your time is held accountable under the whip of someone else or something else, than held accountable under the pursuit of your own actualization. This third step is the secret sauce, because I'm willing to bet that a lot of you have been told to set out a big task, make it a smart goal, set out a clear deadline, and make a plan for it. But those coaches forgot to tell you that you're not a machine. You are a human being subject to the laws of human nature, in a human body with a human mind. You're not built like a computer. One of those laws is that we tend to avoid discomfort. I'm willing to bet no one has told you to give yourself a predetermined consequence more terrifying than the task itself, because humans tend to avoid discomfort. Hell, many coaches would rather avoid the discomfort of giving their clients discomfort. But that's exactly what is required to have true accountability to your own outcomes. We can hijack this law of avoiding discomfort by giving yourself something more uncomfortable to look forward to if your task is not accomplished on time. For example, I signed up for that marathon before I had any training. I made sure to tell everyone about it while I was training. That way, if I chickened out, I would have to face the shame and humiliation of letting down my friends and family. When it came to my research, I had to finish my research findings and paper in time or get a failing grade and have my research and the time invested by others go to waste. As far as the book that I published, I had to finish and edit my book in time for launch or else miss out on $500,000 in sales, as well as the brand damage from letting down on the marketing that was going out, not to mention tarnishing my own personal brand within our company. Once upon a time, I also set out to lose about 30 pounds of weight in 3 months' time. And the consequence I set for myself at the time was I offered to pay $10,000 to one of my colleagues if I failed to achieve that weight in that time. And I told everyone else about it too, so that I would not only lose out on $10,000, but the respect of my clients and colleagues. The result, I ended up hitting my target in 2 months' time. Not 3 months, but 2. And with my 40-day fast, I sought out to tell everyone I was fasting for 40 days straight with a clear start and a clear end date, promising I would learn something special from that experience and to share the lessons from that. And as promised, you can see those lessons published in the 40-day fast manifesto video and on the video blog I published as well. Doing all of these things were uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but I was able to do them simply because it would have been more uncomfortable to face these other predetermined consequences than actually having to sit down and do the work itself. I'm a pretty driven person, but I did not find that my internal chemistry, my internal biology, or my internal neuroscience was as enthusiastic as I explicitly said I was. I don't think anyone else's internal biology is excited or likes it when they have to take on tough projects. But taking on this have-to approach allowed me to hijack my human nature to accomplish some really big things by getting my implicit drivers lined up with some of my explicitly stated drivers. Now, in the past few years, I've had the privilege of meeting with over 60 professional athletes, studying this heightened level of success and accomplishment and what really makes them tick, mostly mixed martial artists who have achieved world champion accolades. And what I've come to realize is that we're not so different from who they are, because they too are avoiding discomfort. Their version of discomfort isn't like an average person's discomfort. Like, an average person's discomfort would be not showing up consistently, not doing hard things, not taking risks. Instead, the discomfort that they go and avoid is being average. They avoid the discomfort of being forgotten. They avoid the discomfort of being poor, not getting out of their low-income neighborhoods, being stuck in their current life position. Their discomfort is being seen as a failure by their family. It's not being able to pay for their children's education. And honestly, for a lot of the reigning world champions, and this sounds kind of crazy, but they're avoiding the discomfort of getting second place. Because anything less than a gold medal, a Super Bowl ring, or a championship belt is simply unacceptable to them at a deep biological level. I will admit, I've had my fair share of failures equal to my success. And the reason I missed on these targets was simply because I didn't have to, the same way I did with my other accomplishments. I was either missing a clear task, a clear deadline, or a clear consequence for not achieving that goal that was more uncomfortable than the pain of actually having to go through with it, which ultimately meant I didn't have to do any of these things. But that's what makes the have to so powerful. You can start using it right now, no matter where you are in life. If executed correctly, the have to actually recruits your fear to help you out. The have to pushes out low priorities. The have to creates clarity. And at this very moment, you can make the choice to set up your have to in the 3 steps I already just described. All I would advise from my experience of setting up these have to experiences is the following. Make sure you only have one have to at a time. Make sure that the consequence is something that sufficiently terrifies you, and promise you'll finish either the task or engage with the consequence, but not neither of them. Hell, I recently walked away from a very high-paying coaching and consulting position that would have really set me up for life, just so that I have to build my own coaching brand from scratch. So this is a mindset I'm not only practicing what I preach, but is something I'm actually heavily relying upon right now to accomplish this huge dream of mine to get paid to pursue my passion and build my very own team of superhuman high performers. After a while, the have to begins to scale up from simple goals being accomplished to your work habits and philosophies, and then that scales up to a complete overhaul of your own identity. A large reason I feel as if I might be built differently than other people, and that I get to break rules that society tends to go put on other people, is that I have to be successful. It's not something that I pray for. It's not something I need to be motivated by. It's something that I have strategically implemented so much that I simply just understand that being in the top 1% of my craft as a peak performance coach, as a speaker, as a writer, and as a business owner is as much part of my reality as is the laws of physics. And that's the power of the have to. If I'm lucky, there's going to be a few of you that make a decision to take on this have to mindset in your own lives and influence this generation for the better. You've probably heard the saying that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. This is a cycle that is repeated many times in history, and that is because in good times, men do not have to be strong, whereas in hard times, they are required to be strong. Recall Marcus Aurelius, who is one of the greatest Roman emperors and Stoic philosophers of all time, one of the last rulers of the Pax Romana, or the 200-year span of Roman peace, calmness, and stability. His son Commodus, being the heir to the throne, grew up in a soft environment where he never knew struggle. He was born in purple, as they said, to inherit the emperorship by birthright. Lacking the leadership and the gravitas his father possessed marked the transition of a kingdom from one of gold to one of iron and rust. He didn't inherit his father's strength, he didn't inherit his father's respect, and he didn't inherit his father's leadership for one reason and one reason alone. He did not have to. I don't know where we're going to see a transition like that today, but I should hope that some of you will know that we are seeing the cycle repeat itself yet again, where a time of peace is wavering because people do not have to be strong. And some of you will learn to make strength, competence, and success not an option, but something you simply have to do, and spread that message to others who are willing to listen. I don't know if that's you. Maybe you're like me and you have to be successful. Or maybe excellence in your life is still optional at this point, and you're looking to cultivate that have-to mindset and cultivate that obsessive hunger to just win at life. But if you stick around with me on these videos, with the lessons from history and the knowledge and technology we have today, we're going to build a new level of excellence the world hasn't seen before. Brick by brick, thought by thought, one step after another, we're going to do something incredible together, and I really look forward to having that journey. If you've made it this far, you're going to apply the have-to mindset right now. I know many of your old clients will grow to enjoy some of the new content I come to put out and would hate it, absolutely just hate it, if they were blocked from this channel. So here's the have-to mindset in action. If you're watching this content right now, I'm giving you a task. You now have to leave in the comment box one thing you've been putting off that you know would help you live a life of your dreams, no matter how big or small. And as a consequence, if I see that you haven't left a comment, I'm going to block you from the channel. I'm doing this because I want people who are dead serious like I am about taking the knowledge out of the video and putting it into the work. And I hope to provide the sufficient discomfort for you to go and do so. If this challenge gave you sort of a panic feeling, that's how you know that it's working. And that is a feeling you should have when you're applying the have-to mindset. I look forward to seeing your comments below. Or if you don't want to share something for the world to see, just share a comment on what you're working on, what you learned, or something that you're excited about recently. I'd love to go hear about it. In the next video, we're going to talk about creating a strong purpose and how to know if that purpose is strong enough to build the required discipline for success. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for the algorithm to go spread this message to others, and I'll see you next week.